Hello, everyone. So, I'm gonna say before I give my testimony, I'm gonna just pray um, that God would just lead, God, and direct me in my testimony, that it would save someone on the line, and that I decrease, that He would increase, and that I would just um, let Him just guide me. Um, so, just a little bit about my background. So, I grew up in church, but I grew up Baptist. Uh, I would probably say elementary school. My grandfather, he was in the church. He was a deaconess in the church, to minister in the church, to clean in the church. So me and like all of my cousins, we always went to church. Um, my granddad always picked us up from church because he drove the church bus. So we never had a reason not to go to church. He picked us up every Sunday for church. He picked us up every night for Bible study, even vacation Bible schools. We never missed. I sung in the choir in Newport News, Virginia. Our church was New Grafton Baptist Church, which is still open today. Um, our pastor was the Reverend Sparrow, and I sung in the W.M. Austin Choir, and I was an usher. So we just always went to church. We had to go to church. If we didn't go to church, it was an issue. It was like a punishment. If we didn't go to church, it was it was a must. You just had to go to church. We didn't have the say of I don't feel like going to church. I don't feel good. My stomach hurt. It was just not up for an option. I remember every Sunday morning we went to church. We had to sit on the front row. Granddaddy did not play. He sung in the choir too. So Granddaddy sung in the choir, like on the first row of the choir. So you on the front row, he could see your every move. You could not get up and go to the bathroom. You better have used the bathroom before you went into the church. If you was hungry, you was just hungry. There was no leaving out the church, no tiptoeing out the church. It was just basically no excuses when it came to church. Granddaddy was like very thorough, and he played no games, and everybody knew not to play with Mr. Wilson. So we would go to church. Then after church on Sunday, we'll go back to my grandmother's house. Me and all my cousins will change clothes because Granddaddy cleaned the church. So we had to clean the church. So we would go back to church in the evening. We would help Granddaddy clean the church, but I always would clean the windows. Granddaddy told me how to clean all the windows in the church, all the window doors in the church. I had to do that every Sunday evening. And me and my cousins, we always wanted to hurry up and clean the church, because if we hurried up and cleaned the church, Granddaddy, he moved slower than us because of course it was a big church. So if we finished cleaning up, we had to wait on Granddaddy, which means we wanted to get in the choir and we wanted to play choir. So we would get in the choir. My cousin, she would be the director of the choir. We had my cousin, he would play the drums. We had one that'll be on the piano. And man, we would just be up in there. We would just be having church. Um, and everybody would just go to one person's house. Like when the summer would come, everybody would go, and Granddaddy would be like, I'm gonna pick y'all up from such and such house. So everybody would be at one person's house, and you could hear like the van. It had the van that my granddaddy drove. It had like a thunder. Like when it came around the curve, you could just hear it saying dun, 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 like that. And we would like everybody screaming like the bus, granddaddy. So everybody would hurry up, run, get on the bus. Like it was just exciting for us, never even really knowing like what who Jesus was. I just think, okay, we go to church. Was just what we do. It's the norm. It's this white man that everybody pray to, and we just go and we sing, and church was just fun. We really didn't know too much about worshiping and praying. We just knew we went to church, and we'd be ready to get out of church because they would just be long-winded. We'd be falling asleep, and Granddaddy would be like, I better not catch y'all asleep. I better not catch y'all asleep on that word. I'm gonna ask y'all what the pastor say when we get out of church and we on our way home. I'm gonna ask y'all what the pastor say. So we all trying to keep our eyes up. We all trying to hold each other up, like, don't go, because don't nobody want to get a whooping, because Granddaddy didn't have play. You can go outside and you're going to get that switch. Granddaddy didn't play. So, as we got older and we got able, we were able to start making our own decisions. Again, growing up in the Baptist, it was to whereas I was kind of scared to move from my church, but it was just, I was just coming and going, coming and going, coming and going. So I had an uncle that, he wasn't like into church or anything like uncle. He was like an alcoholic pretty much. He would like, drink and stuff like that. So one day he turned his life over to God, him and his wife, and they start going to church, and they end up, coming back, telling us the goodness of God and telling us about their church and how, it was a Pentecostal church. So they was like, we want y'all to come and we want y'all to come visit our church. So I was starting going to visit the church because our church, as again, we got older, people started scattering. You wasn't seeing like your friends and, people you were used to seeing when you go to church. So I ended up going to church with my uncle one Sunday, me and my mom and my brother, and it had like more kids our age and stuff there. So it was more inviting, like, okay, yeah, this is the new thing. Like, we want to go here. So as we started, going to the church, we never joined the church or anything like that. We would just, go up there on Sundays and we would just go to church. So again, this was a Pentecostal church. So they did things a little bit different than the Baptist church, which I really still didn't understand at that time. So I am pretty much in middle school at this point. And we end up going to church. So they had asked have we ever been baptized. So I was like, no, I never been baptized. I seen it done, but I had never been baptized. So I'm like, no, I've never been baptized. So my uncle, he was just like, okay, well, we're gonna, you're gonna get baptized. We're gonna baptize you in the name of Jesus. It's not the Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit. They just believe that we baptize you in the name of Jesus. So then it came down to, okay, you can't wear earrings, you can't wear makeup, you can't wear pants. Pretty much just plain Jane. You had to wear skirts every time you come to church. You, like I said, you couldn't wear makeup or anything like that, nothing tight fitting or anything that, looked enticing. But again, I'm in middle school, so I still don't really get it. My mom was raised in the church. My dad wasn't raised in the church. So my dad never really went to church, and I grew up with both of my parents in the home. My daddy never really went to church. When I say never really, my dad has just never went to church as I was a child. My mom would go to church, but she was a grown-up, so she got to pick and choose. Either she had to work or what have you. But again, like I said, it was always Granddaddy taking us to church. So it was already, instilled in me. So again, my mom, she comes to church. And, we started seeing people like they were praising God and stuff, and they falling all out in the spirit, and they like, shaka, speaking in tongues and stuff, but we didn't really like know what it is. So we'll go back to Granddaddy's house. My grandfather, he got a basement, and we would get down in the basement, and he had like these steps before you can get in the basement. So again, we love to play church. So we'll get on the steps and we'll be singing and stuff, and then we'll start falling all out, acting like we falling out, acting like the people like speaking in tongues and, saying stuff. And my granddad like, y'all better stop playing with the Lord. Y'all better stop playing with the Lord. So I end up, staying in my uncle's church, but I was still going back and forth between the Baptist and the Pentecost, because again, I didn't know. So my uncle, he really started like teaching me about the Bible. Like he really was serious. He wasn't playing any games. So I had this guy that I was just like so madly in love with in middle school. And he lived up near my uncle. So I was like, oh, I know how I'm gonna go to my uncle's church, but this was a way to get me to see the guy so he could come outside and I could see him. But I never told my uncle, like my cousins and them knew, my uncle and his wife, my aunt, they never knew why we were always gonna go and stay the night, but I would always stay the night because I wanted to see the guy. I didn't really want to go to church. So one night I end up staying the night, and I end up going out there, staying the weekend with him, thinking that I'm gonna see this little boy. So the little boy, he had like this AAU tournament. He played basketball, so he wasn't there like that weekend. So my uncle was like, "Come on, we gonna go to church." So we went to church. We get back to the house, so my uncle again, he's telling us about what it is to be saved. Do we know what it is to be saved? I mean, he's pulling the Bible out, he's going like over scriptures and stuff, and we just really like, what? Like, what? This is what this is really all about. Because again, nobody really explained it to us. It was just a rule, like mandate, like you gonna go to church. So my uncle, he gets out the Bible, we have Bible study with him, and he starts telling us what it is, what the Holy Spirit is, what it is to be baptized. He starts, talking to us about God and who he really is, how he's our savior. And he started talking to us about revelations and the rapture. So he ended up putting this movie on, and it was called Left Behind. So he's like, I want y'all to watch this movie. He said, because I don't want y'all to get left behind when Jesus come, yada, 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 just telling us about Jesus. So I watched the movie, and it's not the Left Behind that they got out right now. It's nothing compared to this Left Behind, like the movies they have out now, because I've been searching for it, but it's none of these Left Behind movies they have. I can't really like quote it, but I can find the information. I give it to y'all later. But it was like an old movie back then. So we ended up watching the movie and everything. So after the movie was over, I ended up going home the next day. So my uncle was like, just remember what I told you, remember what I said, I'm gonna see you back at church, I want you to get saved, I want you to give your life to Christ, because I don't want to see you left behind, I don't want. Then they had this book out called The Divine Revelation of Hell. So he was like, I don't want y'all to be left behind, and different things like that. So I ended up going home this night, and I never like told my parents like what transpired at my uncle's house, like, because my parents just knew we was over there for the weekend, and of course we went to church, but they ain't never say like, well, y'all have a good time, what y'all learn, what each. They never said anything like that. So this night I go home, I get into bed, and I remember my uncle was like, you never know when God gonna come. He like a thief in the night. So me watching the Left Behind, and how, the rapture had came, and all the people was like, it was like pretty much like they were, there, and then they weren't there, and showing how the pastors was preaching, and even the pastors that was preaching to the people in the church, some of the people in the church, they got caught up in the rapture, but the other people, they didn't, even the pastor didn't. So it scared the crap out of me, just to be honest. Like, I was scared out of my mind. So I get home, I get into bed, and I'm so scared. I tell my little brother, you gonna sleep with me tonight? Because I'm thinking Jesus is really about to return. So I was like, my uncle said he like a thief in the night. So I was looking out the window. I would be looking out the window like, oh God, is he coming down the street? Is he coming down the street? Like, I could not sleep for like probably a week, because I just knew Jesus was coming back. Like, because I still didn't have the in-depth of what the rapture really was. I was just going off of this movie and what my uncle was giving us. But again, it was a weekend, so he can't really give me like everything. So I'm looking out the window. I'm like, I'm so scared. Like, I'm just like, Jesus save me. I went to church, I got saved. Like, Jesus save me. Like, I don't want to die. I don't want to go to hell. Like, God, just please, really, like, just save me, God. I'm looking out the window every day. Like, I'm so shook. My parents don't even know I'm shook. Like, I'm so scared. Like, God is about to return. So, it was pretty much, I would say, at that point in my life, in middle school, is when I really started to like, okay, who is this man that we call Jesus? Like, what is he really about? Like, what does he really do? So I still keep going to church. But I am not really getting a clear, definitely understanding. And me reading the Bible, I really still didn't understand. It was like, read your Bible, study your Bible, study your word. But again, I'm in middle school, so I'm not comprehending. I'm comprehending some stuff, but I'm really not comprehending. So I end up moving. Well, I moved to Hampton. So when we moved to Hampton, I had met some friends that lived in my neighborhood. So they had invited me to their church. So by this time, I'm, going into high school. So my friends had invited me to their church. So I ended up going to their church, which was a Pentecostal church as well. It was Church of God in Christ. So I ended up going to this church. So this was like a little church. It was like a bank building that they had just turned into their church. It wasn't really like up to date, upgraded or nothing. It was just this old building that they had put some carpet and stuff in, made a pulpit, and you come to church. It probably had about maybe 10 members in there. So I went to the church and I was like, what kind of, I'm looking around like this is not the churches and stuff that I'm used to. Like, what kind of church is this? So I end up, like I said, going to the church and the pastor gets to preaching and he really started, talking about God and just the goodness of God, how amazing God is and how God, blesses you. And then it went from that to like, they started having prayer. So they would have prayer like weekly. Like this church was built on prayer. Like this church, they prayed and they prayed and they prayed. Like this was a praying church. So I was like, I really like this church. Like, I really like this church. As I kept, going, it was, teenagers there. Of course, I had my friends there. Then we started going to Bible study. So the Bible study, he was like a young pastor, but he just kept it real. And he was just really like raw with the Bible. And he just would be teaching us and just telling us different things about the Bible, how to live our life. And they start speaking on sin and what sin really was, what fornication was, lying and being an adulterer, murderer, they just stealing, just all kinds of stuff. They just really spitting it out. And it was just like, wow, this is interesting because even though I know, I didn't know. So they were really, educating us and like really teaching us on the Bible. So again, I still go to this Baptist church. So one day we have dinner at my grandma's house. So my cousin comes in and everybody's like, yeah, your cousin, she don't go to New Grafton no more. I'm like, she don't go to New Grafton no more. They was like, no, she ended up going to this other church, and I guess she was visiting the church with a friend. So she ended up visiting the church with a friend. She ends up joining this church. So she ain't at the Baptist church no more. Granddaddy was a little upset. We don't want to hurt Granddaddy's feelings. But Granddaddy getting a little bit older, so he's not really saying too much, but Granddaddy was upset, which gave me the courage to be like, hey, okay, well, I'm about to leave there too, because I don't even hardly go there no more. So because I went to church so much, it was I just felt like I had to go to church. Like if I missed a day of church, I felt like really bad. I felt like God didn't love me no more. Like God was mad at me. He was upset with me because I missed church and I wanted to stay home and I was tired. And then I started going to this church and I really, liked the church. I really liked the teachers and stuff, but I was so like scared to join the church. I just kept going to the church, but I never was like, I'm not going to join the church because I don't want my grandfather to be mad at me. Like I know my granddaddy still don't want us to go to this church, but the teaching that I was getting was just, it kept me coming back. So I think it was like 9/11 came, and that scared the crap out of me. It scared the crap out of me, even though I was still like going to church and I was just doing right. Like I always was going to church, trying to do right. Because church was more so where we look at it now, like not just church, but just God is just magnificent. He's just awesome. Like he's just the greatest feeling. Like he's indescribable. Like you can't even just explain the joy and just everything that he gives you. But I did not have that feeling. I didn't know what that feeling was. It was church is, you better go to church. You better be there on Sunday. You better be on that front row. You better be giving the Lord some of your time. I mean, even down to like, we was paying tithes with our now. Like we getting $5, $2, $1, $2.50. That's what church was more so of, not so much as worship, but it was like, this is where you gotta go because this is the man that, saved your life and he died for your sins. So you better go. But not even really having the background, the history of it. But I'm at this church and I'm getting the history of it. So I just would watch how this church would just pray, and people would get up and they would tell their testimonies and they would say how God has saved them and delivered them from like sickness, disease, car accidents, and people that were homeless, sleeping in their car. And they'll be like, they got a call and they got a job and, God had blessed them and, different things like that. So I'm like, hey, like, this man really doing all of this? Like, okay. So, I'm like, I want to try this. So I'm like, I ain't gonna miss prayer. So I would go to prayer all the time. And it got to the point where the pastor started calling like, hey, I ain't see you in church today. Everything okay? Like, how you going? How you doing? Like, you come to church? And we'd be like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna be at church. Then it got to like, I was in church Monday through Sunday. I was in church morning and evening, after school, on the weekends. Everything that the church had, I was there. You talking about wearing skirts? I didn't get rid of all my jeans, but I remember Rainbow. I had got a job working at Rainbow, and Rainbow had came out with all these cute jean skirts. They had like the little embroidery, and I'm like, I bought every skirt that they had. Like, I was sold out. Like, I'm gonna do this thing. Like, I am going to be sold out for Christ. So, like I said, I kept going to church, going to the prayers and everything like that. Then my family started saying, y'all always down at that church. The church ain't doing nothing but doing this. The church is doing that. The church is doing this. And I ain't never seen nobody in church that much in my life. Like, and I'm like, hold on, we always had to go to church with granddaddy all the time. So now y'all talking about us going to this church, and the church ain't doing nothing but taking y'all money, and the church ain't doing nothing but this, that, and the third. So it was like I ignored it, because it was like, no, like, that's not the feeling that I get when I go to this place. Like, it was a feeling that I just couldn't describe. Like, I didn't know what worship was until I got to this church. Like, you talking about just being in a service where all you do is worship, and the pastor, he don't even get to preach because the spirit is so high in the church, and we just worshiping and we worshiping and we worshiping. So it came to a point in my life where I was just like, I'm joining this church. So I joined the church. Like I said, my mom and daddy, when nobody went to church, it was just me. Nobody in my family, it was just me and my friends that brought me to the church. But I ended up telling the pastor one day after church, I was like, I want to join this church. And he was like, what? I said, I want to join this church. Like, I want to be a member of the church. And he was like, why are you scared to say it? I was like, yeah, I think I'm scared to say it, like, because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, because I always cared about somebody else and how they felt, and always been a people pleaser, always worrying about what people was going to think about me as a little child. I just always cared, and I either cared or I was scared. Pretty much it. It was one or the other. And he was like, okay, okay. So I went home one day, this particular Sunday, and I was like, Mom, I joined church. And she was like, what? I was like, yeah, I joined church. She was like, oh, first your cousin, now you. But I wasn't going to the same church in Georgia, same church that my cousin did. My cousin had went to a whole different church. But I ended up, joining this church. So it was like after I joined the church and being faithful, I got me a Bible. I remember it was Heaven and Earth. I went to Heaven and Earth, got me a Bible, got my highlighters, got my notes and everything. And I'm like, I'm going to Bible study. I'm taking notes. I'm listening to the pastor and his prayers, because the church had got like these new seats, because they had fold out chairs when I first, like picnic chairs, like a cookout chair, like them aluminum chairs when I first got there. So they ended up buying these new comfortable like cushion chairs, because when we would go to church and pray, we would take like a pillow and we would get on our knees and we would pray, because the floor was like really, really, really hard. Like I said, it wasn't this nice, gigantic, old, beautiful church. It was just, we got this building, we was put some stuff in here and we gonna praise the Lord that we here. So, I just watched this church like just pray all the time, pray. Like, I was like, Lord, if I felt like if I missed a day of prayer, like my life wasn't gonna be right. Like God was gonna be mad, and I gotta keep repenting all the time. So again, I still had a bit of a scarcity mindset when it came to Christ. So, like if I didn't do everything that I was supposed to do, then it wasn't gonna be right. So, long story short, I seen how they wanted these, like I said, these chairs for the church, and they prayed and they prayed and they prayed for these chairs. And the prayer that they used to say is, they used to walk around the church And they used to say, a Han pot's gonna sit on you, a Han pot's gonna sit on you, a Han pot's gonna sit on you, a Han pot's gonna sit on you. They would just preach, like not preach, but pray to the chairs and just, we want to decree and declare that Han pot's is coming in this church. Cause like I said, it was maybe not even 10 people that was in the church. So, they were trying to go do outreach, have more members come to the church, and I seen how people started coming into that church. People started flowing into that church from them praying that they had to go out and buy more chairs. Like to the point that I was going to church so much that it was like you got to get there early because the church had just started filling up, and it was a small building. Like I said, it was a bank building, like the inside of the teller building. I ain't talking about a big bank, I'm talking about like just a small little bank. So I just seen how they will always have revival. And, then my pastor, he came to me one day and he was just like, he was like, we having Bible study and I want you to, they had this group called the Young Woman of Excellence. And it was like, we want you to come to the class. So they taught us about etiquette. So I'm like, wow, I'm going to a church. They teaching us etiquette, how to be good young ladies. Not that my mom didn't teach me, but my mom didn't really go to church like that. So they were just teaching us things that, I didn't get at home. So this is like a home away from home. This wasn't just church. It was like a home away from home too. So my life started to take a turn and my parents had separated. And I didn't see it coming. I didn't know how it even happened. My friends even was like, what, your parents separated? And they looked at us like we were the Huxtable family. It was like, your parents separated. And I'm like, yeah, my parents are separating. And it was like when my parents separated, it was like, God, how could you have this happen? Like I had the perfect family. Like my family was together. Like me and my brother didn't even see this coming. Like we got this house and we got to move up out the house. Daddy don't want to pay the mortgage no more. The house is going into foreclosure. Like they about to come and take the house. Like I got to come home from school and pack up my room in my house. And my mom didn't even know where we were going because my daddy just up and told her he didn't want to be there no more. So it was just like, I started getting mad and getting upset. And I'm like, what? I'm in high school now at this point. I'm hanging out, with my friends here and there, and I'm seeing things that they doing. So I'm like, shoot, I want to go out with them too. I want to drink too. We weren't even old enough to drink or just anything. So it was just like, I wanted to do it, but I still had that scared part, like I'm mad at God, but then I don't want to feel God's wrath either. But I'm mad because why did this happen? Why did this have to happen to me of all people? Like my life was just going great to me. So we ended up moving into an apartment, and we had like a 2-bedroom apartment. And my dad, he came around, but he really didn't come around like that. So I had started getting real mad and just frustrated like with my dad because I felt like my dad had let me down. My dad was like my everything. I was daddy's little girl. He spoiled me. It was nothing that I didn't want that my dad didn't give me. Me and my brother, we were both spoiled. Like I pretty much had a good life. I just had it all. Like it was nothing that I asked my dad for that when I came home from school, the one was sitting on my bed. Like if I stay there, I seen an outfit in the mall. If I come home, my mom and dad gonna have it on the bed. My mom would just shop and buy stuff and it'll be there, and it won't no occasion, it won't Christmas, just none of that stuff. Like it was just because my parents would just do it. It was just the norm. And now we moving from this nice house into this 2 compacted bedroom apartment. And I got my own room with my brother, my little brother. He got to share a room with my mom because my mom really can't afford she couldn't afford to keep the house, and she couldn't afford to get nothing more than what we had because she wasn't, it just happened from, what I knew at the time. So I was upset. I was mad. I'm still in high school. I gotta, it's my senior year. I'm about to graduate. I gotta ask, friends and stuff for like rides to get back and forth to school. I didn't have a car, and I was working and everything. So I always had like boyfriends and stuff like that, but I was still a virgin. So I end up meeting this guy that I thought, oh my God, he's just so fine. Like he was like one of the big boys, had the money, had the looks, had the car, everything. And I'll never forget, we had went to a graduation one night and we ended up going to eat at AHA. And he comes and sit at the table and he's like, can I have some of your French toast? And I was like, ew, no, you can't have nothing on my French toast. Cause I just thought like I was just the bomb, like, ew, no, like, whatever. So end up going back to school one day and his friend went to school with me. He was like, hey, my boy's trying to talk to you. He's trying to get with you or whatever. So I'm like, oh, okay. Like, so I end up asking my cousin, hey, can you take me to the football game? Because the guy wanted to meet me at the football game. So she's like, yeah, I'll take you to the football game. So we go to the football game. And we walking around, he like, yeah, I like you, you nice, you look good, whatever, whatever. So, he would try to like come on to me, but it was just like, no, like, ew, like, I'm not messing with you because like I'm a virgin, like I'm not having sex. So as time progressed and I continued to like date him, still go to school and stuff like that, I started hanging out like with my friends. If they wanted to drink, I was drinking. And I would never forget like my friends, they would smoke and I'd be like, nah, I ain't gonna go that far. Like I'm not gonna smoke. But it was like, I was like, what the heck? So I had went in the store, I had got me a drink and not like an alcoholic drink, but I had got something to drink and I had asked somebody to buy me, I think some Black and Miles or something. So we in the car, whatever. I think back then they had this like fruity drink. It was called St. Ives. So I'm in the backseat of my friend's car. Everybody like we chilling and one of us down, like we having a good time. And I go to drink that St. Ives. And then I go and get the Black and Mild and whatever they used to do, take the tip off and put it in there. I didn't really know what I was doing, but I wanted to do it anyway. So I was gonna do it. I lit that joker up, wanted to go puff. That thing burnt the crap. My lip was on fire. I was like, oh my God, like I was out the window, like trying to get air on my lip and stuff. And I was like, oh my God, like that was it for me. So then my friend, I ended up going with one of my other friends and, she was smoking weed. So she was like, girl, just try, just try it. I was like, no, I don't know how to inhale. Like, I ain't gonna do that. Like, no, I'm not gonna do that. She was like, girl, just inhale it. So I went, got the blunt, tried to smoke it. We end up throwing up everywhere. So I was like, okay, smoking just ain't for me. Like, I can't do this. This just is, not me. So after I did that, I was just like, okay, like I went home, I cried out to God because I was just like, God, what am I doing? Like, I'm just so mad. I'm just so frustrated. Like, I just don't know what to do. It's kind of like my dad is gone. My mom, she here, but she ain't here. She working a midnight shift. I got to watch my little brother. He got to go everywhere with me. Like, and I'm trying to work and, finish school. It was just, I just had so much going on. It was like, I just didn't know, but I never stopped going to church. Even in the process of all of this, like I never stopped, going to church. So one day my pastor, he was like, hey, he was like, your cousin told me that you was talking to this little guy. And I was like, yeah. And he was like, you need to leave him alone. He ain't no good for you. And I was like, leave him alone? He ain't no good for me. Like, what you mean? He was like, he's not no good for you. He's like, listen to what I said. He was like, leave him alone. So I was like, okay. So next thing you know, I still mess with the guy. Like I'm still gonna mess with him. I'm still gonna do what I want to do, and I'm still going to church, but I'm just not gonna have sex. So I end up, talking to the guy, everything, and then like my senior year, I end up, not my senior year, but after my graduation out of my senior, after I graduated from high school, I end up having sex with this young man. And I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know anything. He was just like the love of my life. So I thought back then. And I just felt like I couldn't do nothing without him. I felt like I, needed somebody because he would take me out to eat. He would buy me clothes. He would give me money. He would take me to work. He would pick me up from school. He would take me to work. Like I said, he would pick me up from work. And it was just like, okay, but again, I'm still going to church. So my pastor one day, he was like, I seen you out with the young man. He was like, I told you he was like no good for you. He was like, why you still messing with him? And I was like, well, we just friends. He said he's just my friend. And he was like, he's not your friend. He's not your friend. He was like, you gotta let him go. Like, you gotta let him know. He was like, God has things in store for you. God has plans for you, and he wants to use you. He was like, you don't see it, but God wants to use you. He was like, don't get caught up. He was like, you gotta let that young man go. And me being hard-headed, I'm like, he buying me shoes, he giving me money and stuff. Cause again, this was all what daddy did. Daddy spoiled me. Daddy done left. So now I found somebody else that's spoiling me. So within 3 months of me losing my virginity, I get pregnant. And oh my God, that was just like it for me. I was scared out of my mind. My mom didn't know I had lost my virginity. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't even believe I was pregnant. I thought it was a joke. Like, I'm like, this gotta be a joke. Like, I know I'm not pregnant. So I end up calling my friend over. I'm like, girl, can you bring me over pregnancy test? Like, I ain't get my period. Like, I don't know what's going on. So my friend come over, we take the test and everything. And she's like, girl, you really, you pregnant for real. And I'm like, no, I can't be. So I end up calling the guy telling him I'm pregnant. Now, mind you, the guy that I was with, like I said, I was just so in love with him and I just thought he was it. But he had a goal to get me, to take my virginity and everything. So he said, he started laughing and he was like, you pregnant? And I'm like, yeah, I'm pregnant. And he just started laughing like he thought it was the funniest thing. And I'm so shook, I'm scared. So because I live in the house with my mom used to buy like my toiletries and stuff like that. And she was just like, you ain't use no toiletries or nothing this month. She was like, your period came on. And I was like, no, I was like, I think it's late. And I was like, but my stomach is cramping real bad. So I ended up lying and said I came on my period and everything. So at this point, I'm just disgusted. I'm not going to church. I stopped going to church because I was ashamed. I was scared. I didn't know what to do. So I ended up making an appointment to go get an abortion. And when I got to the boy, I told him, I was like, I want to get an abortion. And he was a street dude. So he had the money. So he gave the money. He was like, yeah, go ahead, go get the abortion. He was like, yeah, when you come back, I'm gonna take you shopping and I'm gonna give you all, basically everything that I wanted. And I was like, oh, okay, yeah, like cool, because I ain't having no baby. So I get to the clinic to get ready to have an abortion. And then I started reading over the paper and stuff. And the paper just started saying, what the procedure and different things was and how basically all I seen was if you have an abortion, you could die too. And I'm like, what? You could die from having an abortion. So I really like get freaked out. I'm calling, talking to my friends. Like, I just did not know what to do. Like, I felt like I was lost and I'm crying and I'm praying. And I'm just like, God don't hear me because he mad at me because I don't went, had sex. I done got pregnant. I'm out here and I'm just playing around, even though I was still going to church. I was like, God is just so mad at me. Like, I just thought God was just mad at me. Like, I done let him down, after all of this and me going to church and talking to people about God and trying to bring people to God and bring them to church and telling them how good God is. Then I turned around and went out here and then got pregnant. Now I don't even know if I'm had a baby or not. So um I end up not going through with the abortion. And my mom ended up coming home one day and she was like, you got a doctor's appointment, I'm gonna take you to the doctor. So my mom ended up taking me to the doctor, but I was scared. Of course, the doctor ended up telling my mom, well, she didn't tell my mom because at the time I was 18, so she couldn't really tell my mom that I was pregnant or whatever, but it ended up coming out like, you're pregnant. So my mom, she got real hysterical. She got upset. She was crying. And she was like, why did you lose your virginity? Like, I told you not to have sex with that boy. I told you he wasn't no good for you. Like, everybody was saying like, this guy was just no good for me. But like I said, he was just doing stuff for me. And then he was just like so fine to me. It was just like, oh, he just got it all in the bag and I want him. But I really did not want to have a baby at the time. So anyway, I go through the pregnancy, end up finding out that not only am I pregnant, but another girl is pregnant too, which is a girl that he was messing with off and on while he was with me. Come to find out, I'm thinking I'm the only one. I ain't the only one. And people started telling me about her, but I was like, I don't believe that this is true. Whatever. I'm asking him. I'm naive. Like, I don't really know. And he was like, nah, I used to mess with her. She not ex, whatever, whatever. So the girl ends up calling me, kind of found out me and this girl is both pregnant at the same time. Pregnant. My whole world crushed. Like I did not know what to do. I was embarrassed. I felt humiliated. Then come to find out I wasn't even the main girl. She was the main girl. I was back, we didn't say that back then, but like now it's like, girl, that was the main girl. You was the side piece. You was the side chick. He taking care of her too, and this, that, and the third. So I'm like, what? Like, I just couldn't believe that this had happened to me. Like me of all people, I'm like, how is it me? So, at this point, I'm pregnant. I'm still thinking God is mad at me. I don't have no car. I'm living at home with my mom. I always work. So I was scared to go to church, but then I ended up going back to church one day, and I ended up telling I whispered, I never forget, I whispered in my pastor ear, and I was like, I am pregnant. And my pastor, my first lady was like, what, you pregnant? And I was like, yeah. And I was like, but I don't want to have it. Like, I want to get rid of it. And he was like, get rid of it. And I said, yeah. They was like, what, you think you having puppies? You give away dogs, you give away puppies. You can't be around here just saying you won't give up a baby. No, you won't have that baby. So again, my parents didn't go to church with me. So because I was in a Pentecostal church, Church of God in Christ back then, I don't know if it was like Old Testament laws or what laws that they went by. But if you got pregnant out of wedlock, you couldn't sing in a choir, you couldn't be an usher, you couldn't praise dance. Like you was off of all auxiliaries because you got pregnant out of wedlock. Not only that, but you had to get up in front of the church and tell the whole church that the sin that you committed, and you had to tell them. So basically, I had to get up in front of church and I had to tell them that I committed the sin, which was fornication, and now I am pregnant out of wedlock. I had to tell the whole church. I ended up going home telling my mom because I was just so hurt. And my mom was like, you did what? My mom was mad. She was like, I better not see them, blah, 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 blah. You better not go back to that church, blah, 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 blah. So then my cousin, she ends up to start dating my junior pastor, which was Bible study pastor, youth pastor, and they ended up dating. So he didn't know that she was my cousin, and everything just worked out with them. Whereas like she ended up joining my church, and then she ended up coming to me like, no, I need you to come back. You got to come back to church. Like, this is not the end of the world. She started ministering to me and praying for me. But I had felt like so bound. When I tell you I felt so bound, like I felt so bound because all I knew was like, God is just so mad at me. He's so mad at me. And I just like, Anayzia, like, what are you doing? Like, I was just real hard on myself when it came to that because I didn't really know no different. At the time, I didn't know how amazing, God really was. Like I seen what he did for other people, but I'm like, in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, yeah, I'm waking up every morning, I'm going to church, this, that, and the third. But it's like the things that are happening in my life just felt like it was just so detrimental, like it was the end of the world for me, and that God was just gonna shut me out of heaven, So I ended up going through my pregnancy, the whole 9 months. The young man, he was acting up, he was back and forth, messing with me, messing with the other girl. It just became so much, like I cried, I was just so depressed. I had gained like 100 pounds just alone being pregnant. I wasn't really going to church because I was just so ashamed of what the people was going to say to me. And then, one day my pastor called and he was just like, hey, I haven't seen you at church. And I was like, yeah, I was like, because of people what they're going to say and stuff. And he was like, no, you can't worry about what people say. Like, God really loves you. Repented, like God has forgave you for that. He was like, you need to come on back to church before them 4 walls start speaking to you. I'm like, 4 walls? He was like, yeah, the 4 walls in your house. Like, the devil won't start speaking to you. Like, you got to get up out of that house and you need to come to church where the saints is, be amongst the saints, and let them pray for you, this, that, and the third. So, I started finding myself back in church, going back into church. And like, once I had a baby, I was like, that's it. I was like, I'm going to be sold out for Christ. Like, I ain't playing. I ain't having sex. I ain't doing nothing. So me and the guy was just like off and on. But I was like, I didn't want to have sex with him. So sex began to come a thing of like, it was hard for me to have sex with him because I knew that it wasn't right. Like, it was wrong. And it was like I was doing it to like make him feel good. It was not saying that it wasn't something that I didn't want to do at the time. It was like, yeah, you get me in the mood. But in the back of my mind, I had my conscience like, you're not supposed to do this. Like, you can't do this. And I didn't have sex with him for a while. And then one day I just ended up having sex with him. We went out, he took me out to dinner, showed me a good time, took me out with his friends to this nice diner, told me to get dressed up real nice, put my heels and stuff on. And he had took me out, got a hotel room, knew where he was going. We had sex, came home, dropped me off the next morning. I called him maybe a couple of hours later. That fool did not pick up that phone and talk to me. And it was at that time that I was like, this man keep using me. He's just using me for sex. And when I say I cried and I cried and I cried and I cried. And I was like, that's it. I'm not doing it no more. So I go back to church, like, okay, I'm sold out for Jesus. I'm sold out for Jesus. I'm sold out for him. Like, I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do this. He would come back around. He would do the same thing again. Next thing you know, I'll be back in the sheets with him again. And I was like, I just can't keep doing it. Till one day I came home and I fell out on the floor and I just cried. And I was like, God, why is this happening to me? I have felt like I had been raped. I was like, oh my God, like I just couldn't explain and feel like I felt dirty. I felt filthy. I have felt like I had just been raped. And it was just like every time I would have sex with him, like my spirit would feel convicted. Like I just felt just horrible. Like I just felt so bad. Like I really couldn't even talk about it to nobody, because it was like, well, this is the thing, and this is what people do. Like God gonna forgive you. But I had went to church one day and they were my pastor was preaching on about I forgot how to say how he had worded it, but basically like knowing like you're doing this thing and you know that you're doing it. Basically like it's one thing to do it and ask God for forgiveness and don't do it again. But now it's not that you're doing it and asking God to forgive. It's like you're practicing this sin. So you just keep doing it, you keep doing it. So my issue was like I battled with sex. Like I knew I was, because it was like I felt like, well, God, I'm doing majority of things. Like I go to church, I'm reading my word, I'm going to Bible study, I'm praying every time the doors of the church is open. I'm going, I'm paying my tithes, I'm giving offering. I'm trying to do right by people. I'm blessing people. Like I'm not trying to be mean to people. Like I'm just trying to do everything, to get the glory from you. And it was like things just, it just things wasn't.
Oh wow, we completely lost her.
Yeah, let me text her and see. Hold on. Uh-oh, I'm sorry, hold on. Y'all. Uh-oh, her phone is going straight to voicemail, y'all. So I'm not sure if what happened. It's her connection or if her phone died. I'm not sure. I don't know. I guess we could wait a few minutes. Anybody got anything while we waiting for her?
Hey, I was so enjoying that. That was so beautiful. It just reminded me of how we grew up in Pentecostal church with them praying, and how I told y'all they taught us how to tarry before the Lord. Like they put it in us, so embedded in us that you don't just pray and your prayers is answered right away. You know what I mean? Like you might not see the answer to your prayers right away, but I'm trying to think how to say it because it wasn't like how they do that stuff now where the pictures, you know how they tell you to make a picture of it and keep saying it until it manifests. We wasn't taught none of that, but just that God is not a Santa Claus. But if you tarry before Him and you don't lose heart, you're going to see God answer your prayers. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think the way they try to do it now is with all kind of extra stuff. But anyway, I was just saying, I just really enjoy her testimony. It was beautiful, even just what we heard so far. So I hope she can get back on.
Okay, sorry y'all, my phone turned off. So, everybody here?
We here, we here. Sister Serena was just commenting and just telling us how much she was enjoying it and hoping you was gonna get back on. That's all you missed. We here. We waiting for you, girl.
So, I forgot where I left off at. Okay, so, I think I was talking about, the fornicating. So, pretty much, like I was saying, fornicating had been like an issue in my life with me. Um, you know, dealing with this guy, it was like I felt like I was, searching for love. So I would just anytime I got in the gym, it was like I was like run back to the church when it came to him. Cause like I said, I felt like I was doing everything. I was like good, going to church, paying my tithe, giving my offering, stuff like that. And it was just like, dang, every time I turn around and I start doing good, it's like, this happens or whatever, or I'm doing good and I'm in my word, and it was like he'll come back around, and he just knew what to do. He knew what words to say. He knew what to buy me. He knew what restaurant, to take me to. It was just like he just knew what to do. Then when it came time for me to have a baby, I end up letting him know like, hey, they're going to induce my labor. I'm going to have a baby, and I go to had a baby. They induced my labor, and he didn't show up for the pregnancy. For the birth of our daughter. His mom showed up, my mom, my dad was there. I think one of my friends, she ended up coming in. So I'm in like pain, okay? I'm having this baby. I'm not taking no medicine or anything like that. I'm like, I'm gonna have this baby because I was scared. There you go again. I was scared because everybody say you have an abdomen, you can get paralyzed. So I'm like, I'm scared. I don't want that to happen. So I'm going through, the pain of having a baby, 8 hours, just through pain, doing the breathing and everything. So in comes one of my friends, and she's like, hey girl, I just came to see you, whatever. She was like, now I'm up in the hospital bed with having contractions, some real contractions. This is my first baby. And this pain is excruciating. And the doctor gave me some medicine to calm me down. And she was like, yeah. She was like, such and such ain't here with you. I said, yeah, his mom called him. He on his way. And she was like, girl, he out to eat at Applebee's with his other baby mama. I said, what? So I'm hurt, I'm hurting, and on top of me hurting, now my heart is just broken. So he ends up coming after the baby born and everything to the hospital, and he asked to see the baby. By this time, they done already took the baby back, and he asked the doctor, like he get an attitude with the doctor, like, I want to see my baby, that's my baby. So the doctor says to him, well, I'm sorry, the baby's already back, we're doing whatever. You're gonna have to come back tomorrow and see the baby because you won't hear. So in the midst of, just to be transparent with y'all, in the midst of when I found out I was pregnant by him, the doctor, she ends up calling, leaving a message for me to call her. We had an answer machine and stuff like that. And she had called the house phone. So the doctor ends up saying, I try to leave this part out, but I'm being led to say it. So the doctor says to me, hey, you are pregnant, but they did a pap smear, and she was like, we found in your pap smear that you have chlamydia. And I was like, I got chlamydia. Like, what the heck is chlamydia? Like, what is that? And so she was like, is this your only sex partner? I was like, yes, this is the only guy I've been with. It's the only guy, guy that I'm like messing with. And she was just like, okay, well, yeah, we've seen it. She was like, and I had asked her like, what was the symptoms? So I didn't have any of the symptoms that she said. So she was like, well, you don't have any of the symptoms yet. We could have catched it early. She was like, which is a good thing. She was like, but I want you to come and, get the medicine, and I want you to take it because it can, whatever, have complications in your pregnancy or whatever like that. So I was like, okay. So then the doctor says, and I'm gonna prescribe your little friend some medicine too. She was like, even though I shouldn't, she was like, but I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna subscribe the medicine for him. She was like, because I can't say that you won't mess with him again, and he probably don't go to the doctor, and he probably don't even know. She was like, but you go ahead and you let him know, and when you pick up your prescription, I'll have a prescription for him as well. So I was like, okay. So I end up calling him, and I'm like, hey, I need to talk to you. The doctor called or whatever. So he's like, all right, I'm gonna come. I'll be over there. And he always would say he on his way, but on his way, man, I'll see him like 3 or 4 hours, or maybe even the next day. He was never like on his way. So that particular night, he ended up coming, and my mom, she worked at the midnight shift. So my mom had this like candle that stood up off the floor, and you would put like the big candles in it, but they had like the thorn that stuck up so you could attach the candle with it and it could like stick and stay in there. And it was like right by my mom's door. So this man, he comes through the door, and I just go off. Like, I kind of like lost my mind. Like, it's like I let everything out on him, and I end up stabbing him in his arm because the candle went up there. So I end up stabbing him in his arm, and you can see like the blood and the meat and stuff like gushing out and everything. And he was like, oh my God, like you stabbed me. I can't believe you do that to me. And like, I was just so much enraged. But then when I seen the blood, I got scared because I was like, oh my God, what if he got police on me? Like, what if he gonna do? But because he was like this street dude, he didn't even want to call the police because he was scared, but my mind didn't even think about that. So, I ended up putting him out, out the house and everything. And I didn't want to talk to him. Like, I didn't talk to him for like weeks. And at that point, he started still trying to like come around and like be my best friend and stuff like that. I guess because he had never, seen me in that way, because I was always like the good girl. I ain't gonna say nothing. I ain't gonna get upset. I ain't gonna say nothing. It was just like I always made him feel like he was just everything to me. Like I needed him. Like I wake up and sleep and eat and breathe this boy out. But I knew that I still had to go to church because, like I said, it was instilled in me. So pretty much like still going to church, going through the motions, doing everything that the pastor is saying that I should do. But I'm reading the word, but I'm reading the word that the pastor is giving us to read on Sunday or doing Bible study. I'm going back home, reading over it, learning the scriptures and what they mean, and coming back to church on Bible study night and talking about, the scriptures and what it meant to me and how, I understood it. And, but not really reading it like I'm going home and I'm going to read my Bible for me, and I'm going to study for me, and I'm going to get to learn the Bible for me. It was like I was doing it because I had to, because this is what we did at church, and we got to stand up in front of everybody, and I ain't going to be standing up in front of here looking crazy. So it was more so like I was doing it for that. More so than, hey, God, I got this relationship with you, and this is what I want to do. Because in my mind, even though it was like I always battled, and I knew that God was like a good man, but I also thought God was like this mean person too. So whereas like, oh, I'm gonna bless you, but on the other hand, oh, you did that? Okay, I'm about to whoop your butt. I'm about to whoop your butt. Oh, every time you sleep with him, I'm gonna whoop your butt. Every time you don't read your Bible, I'm gonna whoop your butt. Every time you go to sleep and you don't pray or wake up and pray, I'm gonna whoop your butt. Like, always had me thinking like something bad was going to happen if I did not read the word. And I'm just reading it to go, like I said, through the motion, just because that's what I am, taught to do. So, you know, like I said, I end up having my daughter. I end up, you know, I'm still living at home and stuff with my parents, with my mom. And my mom, she ended up having surgery. And my mom was real scared. She had to have surgery. So she was like, my mom turns to me and she's just like, you know, I know you know prayer. Like, I know you know God and I know you go to church. Like, I really need you like to pray for me with the surgery, because my mom had a scarcity mindset too. And it took me some time to like really realize that, but she would, you know, be scared too sometimes. So, you know, I prayed for my mom and everything, made sure my mom was good. Like at this point, it was just my mom wasn't working. She didn't really have no money coming in. My dad, he won't pay him no child support. Won't go pay no child support. My mom was so in love with him. My mom would not ask my dad for anything. My mom just worked hard, like, I got this and I can do it. You know, dad was still around. He wasn't absent, like, oh, we just didn't see or hear from him anymore. It just wasn't what we were used to. So my mom she ends up having surgery. I'm working and I have a baby. And my mom comes home, you know, from having surgery. So I didn't work. My job wasn't too far from our house. So I would get up and I would go to work. I would come back home, make sure my mom had breakfast, go back to work, leave work, go back home, make sure my mom had her lunch, washing her up, making sure she was good for bed, making sure my brother had dinner. Like, I was doing everything like I had 3 kids. And then in the midst of that, I'm still dealing with my daughter's father over here. And not realizing, like, things was just starting to build up. So one day my dad, he ends up coming over the house and seeing my mom. And every time my dad would come over to the house, like, I would get real upset. I'd be like, oh, like, I was just so mad and angry. Like, I could not stand him. Like, I could not stand my dad. It was like, he'll come over, I'd be like, ugh, why is he over here? Why is he? I would get all attitude. I would slam my room door. I would get in my car and leave, be like, call me when he gone, because I just didn't want to see him. Like, I was just so mad at him. Mind you, daddy don't go to church. So daddy, far as I knew, daddy ain't really talk about God or have a relationship with God. Like, I never seen my daddy crack open the Bible. So I didn't even know what religion my daddy had, if he had a religion at all. So he comes over to the house this day and I was cooking dinner for my mom. My mom had said she wanted some, I never forget, she said she wanted some smoked neck bones with some potatoes and string beans and some rolls. And I think it was something else. So I ended up cooking it and everything. And my daughter's father had called and asked me to go out to eat. So I was like, okay, but I got to take care of my mom. So my mom, she was downstairs. Her friend had came over to visit her. And my mom had asked me to do something for her. And my dad makes the comment. He was just like, yeah, get up and do something, because you don't do nothing anyway. You don't do nothing. And I was like, I don't do nothing. And you guys, I had it was like a 2-liter, a 2-liter Minute Maid. It was like the pink lemonade or the yellow lemonade, one of them. And all I knew is that everything that I had built up inside of me, it just ticked me off. And I took the bottle and I tossed it at my dad's head. And I was like, you don't do nothing. You not my daddy. Like, I was like, you ain't my daddy. Like, you don't love me. You don't care about us. I started fighting my daddy. And I went out the house and my dad, I had on this like the big bomber jackets. And my dad like grabbed me by my neck. And he ended up, like, when I say dragging me, he just dragged me right on back through the door. Like, I was kicking him, screaming, kicking, punching, kicking him, everything. And so at that, they pulled me back in the house with my mom friend. She was like, what has gotten into you? What is wrong with you? She was like, I can't believe that you would do something like that to your dad. And I was like, he ain't my dad gonna did it. Like, I was cussing him out. I was like, I don't know him. He ain't no daddy of mine. I was like, saying all these bad words and everything to him. And I ran upstairs. No, my mom looked at me and she was like, if it won't for now my daddy done left us. We done moved down and everything. That's what I'm thinking. We had to come get this little apartment. By this time, my mom had, got another job and we were able to move and we moved into, a better house or whatever. We got a better living situation. But then my mom had to have surgery. Her job ended up closing so the finances she really didn't have. So it was like, it was on me to make sure that the bills and stuff was being taken care of, with what little she had. We putting it all together to try to make sure that, everything works out. So my mom looks at me and she was like, if it weren't for my daughter, she was like, if it weren't for Ayana, she was like, I'll put you out of my house right now. So my dad looks at her and he says, that's it. I ain't never coming back to this house. He was like, as long as she living here, I never come back here like that. So I run upstairs and I get my little luggage on. I'm trying and I'm packing my clothes up, getting my baby, packing my stuff up or whatever. And I end up calling my cousin. I was like, can I come live with you? She was like, what is going on over there? I was like, I got to get out of this house. I was like, I'm packing my clothes and I'm coming live with you. She was like, what is going on? I was like, I'll talk to you when I get there. I'm just so upset, mad, packing my clothes and everything. And somebody put their hands on me and I turned around and it was my dad. Now I thought this man done left. He done told my mama he had never come back long as I live in the house. My dad put his hands on my shoulder and he was like, I never knew what it was to hear the voice of God. He was like, but if I ain't heard the voice of God today, and God told me to go back in that house and get your child. Go back in that house and get your child and talk to your child. And I just looked at him with tears in my eyes and my dad was like, you're pregnant. And I was like, I'm pregnant. And he was like, the Lord told me you was pregnant. My dad don't go to church. He don't read the Bible. I don't even think the man had a prayer life. Like, I'm like, God told you what? He was like, God said that I had to come back in this house and I had to get you. And my daddy apologized to me. I apologized to him. My dad hugged on me and he just loved on me. And, it was just like, just everything that I had felt like that I had been missing, So I end up telling my dad, I was like, Dad, I don't know what I'm gonna do. I was like, I can't have this baby. Like, I can't afford this baby. Like, I just don't know what to do. I can't do it. And, my dad was like, well, I can't tell you what to do. He was like, but, he was like, I know that was God. I know that God spoke to me. So, he was like, God care about you. Like, he really loves you. So it's like, at that moment, I'm sitting on the bed and I'm crying because all of this stuff happened. My daddy already walked out my life. I'm like, Dad, he really gone now. Daddy ain't never coming back. My mama, she mad at me. She downstairs crying. My brother crying. The whole house crying. The baby crying. And I'm pregnant. I'm like, Lord Jesus, like, what am I do? Like, I don't even know what to do. So I end up, my mom, my dad, he was just like, my dad told me, he was like, don't get rid of the baby. So I end up getting rid of the baby, y'all. I end up going, having an abortion, getting rid of this baby. So I hid it from my parents. So at this point, my baby, she's walking. I'm still living in the house with my parents. So she goes to I had it hid in like this little chest of drawer in my bedroom. So my baby at the time got the medicine and she went and took it to my mama. And so my mom, I guess, looked it up and she was like, you had an abortion? And I was like, no, I didn't have no abortion. I was like, I went to the doctor and the doctor gave me an antibiotic for whatever. My mom was like, you lying, you got rid of the baby. She was like, I can't believe, you did it. Like my mom was like really, upset with me. So, I went to church and I cried out to God, pleaded to God. And I was like, God, I can't believe like I did this. Like I was just really like upset with myself. I was at the altar crying, snot and boogers, everything. Like I just was like, God's just so mad at me. So, I had went back home and I carried that. So this time I was like, I had prayed out to God and I was just like, God, like, I'm sorry, like, please forgive me, just crying out to him. So at this point, like, I'm really going to church and stuff, really trying to get to know God, trying to get back in God's good graces. Because I'm like, God is really mad. He's really upset with me now because I done murdered a baby. So, I'm like, I can't mess with this boy no more. Like, he's just really just taking everything out of me. Like, I don't have no energy. It was like, I ate, sleep, and breathed him. Like I woke up with him on my mind. As he called, I couldn't eat. I had the boy, he had stressed me out so bad. My friends was like, Dad, you losing a lot of weight. And at that time, the Atkins diet had came out, but they started, the guy's name was Tum Tum. So they were like, girl, you ain't on the Atkins diet, you on the Tum Tum diet. Like that. So I was just like, whatever. So, end up, getting back in church and everything like that. So I end up at this point, started, hanging out with my friends and stuff. Like, I'm just gonna leave him alone. I ain't gonna deal with him no more or anything like that. So, I started hanging out with my friends and stuff. So then I still end up, getting my life together. Then as you know, you get your life together, you go right back. So I went right back, started messing with him again after I said I was not gonna mess with him again. I ended up getting pregnant again. So at this point, like I'm really scared. I'm like, God, I can't, I can't have this baby. Like I can't do this, And I'm just being real transparent. I was like, God, I can't do this. Like I can't, I can't have this baby. Like I'm still living at home with my mama. Like I can't do this. So, listen to my friends and stuff. They like, well, girl, I'll go with you. I'll go with you. You can't have no baby with him. He didn't want no baby. Like he wasn't fit, for nothing. He in the streets, this, that, and the third. So I end up going again, having another abortion again. This time when I went and had the abortion, the first time I went, I said I wanted it to be light sedated. So I didn't know nothing by the time I came out of that, the first time I had the abortion. This time I had the abortion and I went in, like I was so scared. And I was like, I couldn't have this baby. So I'm just praying like, God be with me, God be with me. And I asked to be like sedated for this one, like the last one. And I heard everything. It was like, God was like, oh, that's what you gonna do? Okay. Like I heard everything that they did, down to the utensils, them going in me. I just heard everything. I mean, I was crying. And they were like, we're gonna have to get somebody in here. We're gonna have to get somebody in here to hold your hand. Like they thought they was gonna have to call my friend in there. Like they couldn't like tell me. They was like, when we gave her the medicine, like the medicine won't make me sleepy. Nothing that they was doing was helping me. Like I was about to lose my mind in there because I had heard everything. So end up coming out of there and they, laid me down and everything. And I left out, got my medicine. He had gave me money, told me go out to eat, go shopping and stuff, but I just did not feel right with this money, just everything that had transpired. So I ended up going to sleep, going home, started having like nightmares and stuff about it. And I was just like, I ended up praying to God because I felt like it was torturing me. And I was like, God, I apologize. I was like, I know I shouldn't have did this. I was like, God, please don't be mad at me. Like, I'm really, really praying with him. I'm like, God, I ain't gonna never go, back to him. Like, God, I would never ever find myself in this situation where I started praying. I started praying stuff that I didn't even know I could pray. At this point, I was like, God, break the soul ties, break the bondage and break the chains, Lord, break the yoke. I was like, every soul tie that we have, because at this point, I done learned about soul ties and things at church. So I'm like, God, break the soul tie between me and him. Like, God, I don't even want to have a taste of him no more. I don't want to love on him no more. Like, God, I was like, remove him out of my life, Lord. I was like, God, I don't want him to die. I don't want him to get killed or nothing. I was like, but God, I want you to remove him out of my life. I was like, God, I can't do this no more. Like, I really just cried out to God, got on my knees. I never forget, I was in the shower and I just started, won't nobody at home. And I just started screaming. And I just got like in a fetal position. And I was just like, God, I can't do this no more. I was like, God, I can't do this no more. I was like, God, please forgive me. Like I don't want him in my life no more. I was like, God, just remove him, like break the the soul ties. I'm just crying out to God at everything. So a little bit after that, the boy, the guy, he started calling me again, wanting to see me, wanting to, like everything with nothing ever happened, because we got a child together. So, he felt like he was just entitled and he was just that dude. And I started figuring out his tactics and stuff. And he would call and he'll be like, what the baby need and stuff. And he would like try to buy, well, he always bought for her, but it was like he would do like extra stuff and buy me extra stuff and stuff just to get me to come around. And then he started getting his mama to call me, then his cousin started calling me, and then he started popping up at my job, and he would start popping up at my mom's house and stuff like that. And I was just like, I ain't messing with you no more. When I tell you, I had started going out with my friends, and like I had met other guys that it wasn't like a relationship or nothing. They like, can I take you out to the movies or something like that? I would just go out with them just to get him off my mind and stuff. And it was like, God heard that prayer that day because he got locked up. He got locked up. I had seen him one day. He was supposed to have been paying me to give me money for the baby's daycare. And that next morning he was like, bring the baby around here after you get her hair done so I can see her. So I was like, okay. And I kept calling his phone, never picked up. He got locked up. And it was like, I was like, oh my God, I didn't even know like how to feel. I didn't know if I was to cry. I didn't know if I was to feel sad, but I can't even lie. It was like a relief. It was like just a relief. Like I didn't know what to do. Like I was just like, oh my God, like is he really gone? But I felt bad at the same time. But it was like I felt, a relief. So I really just started like going to church, getting into church. I wasn't, messing around with anybody or, things like that. And I really just started like really like giving my time to God, like just really like worshiping God and just giving him my all, like staying in church, staying near the fire. When the doors of the church was open, it was like, I'm there. If they had revival, I was there. If my church was going over the water to another church to preach, I was going over there. It was like everywhere that the church was going, I was following them, like trying to stay near the church and near the saints, because it was like that's all I knew. Like I gotta stay near the saints and I gotta stay, near them so that I can stay prayed up, stay in the spirit, like so they could pray for me. And they, I felt like they were my covering, and I never really had a relationship with my first lady. Like I would talk to her, but I never could like gravitate towards her and really have like a relationship with her. Like I seen all the other ladies and stuff in the church, really talk to her. And so one day she came up to me and she was like, Anayzia, she was like, we having a Bible study. She was like, and we were talking about the women of the Bible. She was like, and I need you to get a pick out of these, one of these women in the Bible. So I was like, okay, all right. So I'm really, really scared. I'm like, she want me to get up and talk in front of these people. Like, I don't even know what I'm gonna say. Like, I can't get up and talk in front of these people. So I end up reading the book of Ruth. And like as I read the book of Ruth, like it just changed my whole like mind frame. It was like I'm really in the Bible now. Like I'm really reading the word. Like I'm really understanding. I'm really getting understanding and knowledge of Ruth and how she was like, in the field and how she, left her people and just, everything that came with Ruth. And I had to get up and I had to talk about it at church. So I got up and I was nervous and I spoke about it at church. And it was like from that point on, my pastor, he came to me one day and he was like, he looked at me and he was like, you know what? And I said, well, he was like, the enemy wants your mind. And I was like, what? He said, the enemy wants your mind. He said, and I mean, he wants to destroy your mind. He was like, I mean, he really wants your mind. And he prayed for me and he was like, the enemy really wants your mind. He really trying to take you up out of here with your mind. And he was like, he just told me, like an idle mind is the devil's workshop. And he was like, I'm gonna be praying for you. He was like, stay near the fire, stay near the church. He was like, you really got a testimony. He was like, if you could really see the things that God really want to do in your life, he was like, I could see what God want to do, but you gotta see what God want to do. And he was like, stay near the fire or whatever. So I'm like, okay. So next thing you know, I go out with my friends one night and I end up meeting this guy. The guy was so fine. Oh God, fine, y'all. So my friend, she's like, hey, this, dude was trying to talk to you. And I'm like, who? So I see the dude, he fine, nice looking, everything, right? I mean, he had going for himself. He roamed, out in the streets. He had an honest job, like everything. And he started coming around. I gave him my number. We talked like one time. He called me one day. He was like, hey, you want to go to the beach? We started going to the beach. Like he was just different from what I was used to. So it was like, okay, he's taking me out, he coming over, he bringing me flowers, he buying me watches. Back then it was Coach, he was buying me Coach shoes, Coach flip-flops, Coach purses, Coach umbrellas and stuff. He was just buying me stuff, taking me out all the time. He was just taking me out. And in my mind, I'm like, this is just too good to be true. Dated him for a good like week. And by the second week, this boy asked me to be his girlfriend. And I was like, be your girlfriend? He was like, yeah, that man you I'm praying for. I want a husband. I want a spirit-filled soulmate. I want God to bless me with somebody that's in the church that know God, everything, just got the love of Christ that, gonna love me like everything the pastor say, gonna love me as Christ loves the church, gonna be the priest, the provider, the protector, everything. So this man come in like a knight in shining armor, y'all. And I'm dating him and he's like, hey, I want you to be my girlfriend. I was like, be your girlfriend? He's like, yeah. He's like, it ain't no book out here that say whether or not how long you supposed to date somebody before y'all in a relationship. So I'm like, yeah, that's true. He was a car salesman too at the time. I'm like, I'm just short busted. I still don't even know. I don't know the game. I'm like, okay. Like he really feeling me, he taking me out with wine and dime. He take me to comedy shows. Just an experience that I had never had with, my past. Dated me for the longest, no sex, no nothing. Next thing you know, I think it was one night he was like, well, can you come and stay the night with me? And I was like, nah. I was like, I don't want to stay the night with you because I don't want to do nothing, And I had been messing with nobody during the time. And so he was like, yeah, you right. We should keep it that way. So I'm like, okay. So then one night I went out with my friends again and he was like, hey, he was out. No, I called him and I was like, what you doing? And I was like, I'm gonna come by and I'm gonna see you. And he was like, nah. He was like, you ain't gonna come by, you ain't gonna come over, you ain't gonna see me, and you be teasing me or whatever. I was like, I ain't gonna tease you. I was just gonna come and see you because I felt like I looked good that night and I wanted him to see how good I looked. So I ended up going over to his house, seeing him shower in the sheets. In the sheets, right? So even though, I had sex with him and everything, he was still persistent. Like he didn't change up on me or nothing. He still called, wanted me to come around. He was interested in my child, because he didn't have any kids. And he was like, wow, like show me where he worked at, just introduce me to his mom. Like he was really like I want to be married, I want a wife, all of this stuff and everything. I'm like, oh my God, I think I found him. I think he convinced me so much. I convinced my friend. I even convinced the pastor and the first lady. I went to church one day. The boy was already at the church. He had beat me to church. He was sitting on the first row. I was like, I came in the doors. They was like, your friend's here. I was like, my friend who? He was like, him. They was like, well, we saved you a seat behind him. I'm like, this fool done beat me to church? Like, dang, he done beat me to church? My at the time, my cousin, she had got married to the pastor. And they was talking to like, okay, we getting ready to go out to eat and stuff like that. Y'all can come out, y'all can join us. And we go to the table, we go out to eat and everything. And they like, oh, y'all look really good together, because my church is real big on marriages too. And, getting married and you need to be with your, be with your husband. You need to, do right so you can get you a husband. And, a husband's going to come pray for you, a husband, and stuff like that. So, they like, yeah, he's like, yeah, they talking to him. He telling them everything sound good and everything. The pastor even was so like, act right, whatever. So I'm like, okay, bam, I get pregnant. And this boy don't even want to answer the phone or nothing for me. After all of this stuff, he don't want to answer the phone, no nothing for me. Then eventually, some weeks and stuff go by, and I'm like, I'm just gonna have an abortion. So I go, make me an appointment, get there, pay the little fee, sat on that couch comfortably, like I ain't having this boy baby, And then I heard the spirit say, I thought you said the last one was the last one. I thought we weren't gonna do this no more. So I'm like, hey, I didn't say that. But I'm just gonna do it this one more time. I heard this lady start screaming. I left out that clinic so fast, and there was people out there, and they had the pictures and stuff, like protesting and stuff, like you shouldn't get an abortion. And I left up out of there so fast. The guy ended up calling his mom, calling my mom on a job. And he was like, please tell your child, your daughter don't get rid of, my baby, that could be my daughter, that's my son. Like, please tell her, don't get rid of my child. Like, if she don't want the child, just give it to me. I'll take care of the baby. Like, please tell her, just don't get rid of the baby, like begging and pleading for me not to get rid of the baby. So, I'll go ahead through with the pregnancy, depressed as ever. We end up moving in together. My parents really didn't approve of it. My dad didn't approve of it. And he was like, okay, well, we got to split everything down the middle 50-50. So, me growing up with my mom and my daddy in the home, even though they had separated for 18 years of my life, I never ever seen my dad tell my mom we going 50-50. I never even heard my dad talk about no 50-50. You talking about 50-50. The most my mama do is making groceries and paying utility bills. My mama ain't paying no mortgage and stuff like that. I'm like, what? So me being scared to even say anything, because I'm like, well, dang, I'm already about to, have this baby, and he do got a good job. He is better than the last one I had. Maybe I should just go ahead. So I'm like, okay, we can do 50-50. I wasn't even making enough to get this man 50-50. Now I'm still living at home with my mama, and I got a baby, and her daddy ain't even around to even help me take care of her. So I'm doing this by myself. So I'm like robbing Peter to pay Paul at this point to live up to his standards and to be with him, because he already had this picture of like, okay, well, you should be working this type of job, not just any job, but this particular type of job. My house need to be clean. Like, I was his wife already. Like, the house had to be clean. When he came home, his dinner had to be cooked. His dinner had to be in a microwave, like all of these things. And he was just mentally abusing me. And I didn't even know it, because I wouldn't talk to my parents. I wouldn't talk to my dad. I really wouldn't tell nobody about it. It was like, I would talk to my friends about it, but I don't even think my friends even understood or knew back then what I was really like going through. I don't think none of us even knew, because it was like all of us were going through the same. So I end up getting in an argument with him, and his best friend, was supposed to be his best friend at the time, called him, was like, yeah, while you was away, yeah, you brought another girl in the house, and she had a daughter, and told me what my daughter's bedroom and everything looked like. And he was like, yeah, she the baby was staying in your baby room, and just was telling me everything. So I was like, oh, really? Okay. So I ain't say nothing. He would say, I'm going out to play basketball. I'd be like, okay. Then one day someone was like, look at his book bag. Now, mind you, I'm still going to church. So he like, well, look in the book bag. Someone said, look in the book bag. So I look in the book bag. Now, by this time, he ain't going to church with me no more. He done called my church hypocrites. He done said, all them people up in there, they money hungry. All they want to do is want your money. All they do is want you in $100 line, $200 line, $500 line. They all fake. They all phony. That ain't how God work. Now he got everything to say about the church, that you was beating me to the church to go on Sundays, and you wanted to be saved and want this wife and this family and everything like that. But now you treat me like a dog. And you talking about the church. So I go in a book bag that he claimed he was going to play basketball with. Clothes still smell like fabric soft. So I'm like, I know he ain't playing basketball, and the clothes folded up all nice and neat in the book bag or whatever. So, I still didn't say anything. So one day I ended up telling him, hey, I know you was messing with a girl, whatever. So this fool put me out the house. Back then, I didn't know, like, oh, you could go, you're not supposed to, lock somebody out of the house that y'all both was out in if they got mail, da 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 da. So I was like, look, I need all my stuff. Like, I need my TV. Like, I had furnished the kitchen, my daughter's bedroom, all my clothes, everything was there. And I'm back at my mama's house on the couch, because by this time, my daddy didn't move in, but he was coming back and forth. And my bedroom set that I had in my room, I had put at the house that me and him had moved in. So I didn't even have no bed. So I'm pregnant, back at home, and I'm sleeping on my mama's couch. And I'm like, Lord, something got to give. So a week I slept on my mama's couch, and my mom's like, you could come upstairs, or you know, because my dad would come over and stay the night sometimes. And so my mom was like, well, your dad, he just gonna go home and you could just come and you could sleep in the bed with me. But I was so depressed. I didn't even want to get in the bed with my mama. Like, I just wanted to stay downstairs. So I ended up getting a call one night, and the guy, he was like, hey, he was like, you know what? He was like, you can come back. Is you gonna come back? And I was like, no, I ain't coming back. I was like, I'm gonna stay here. He was like, you know, I love you. You know, I really want to be with you. Like, we gonna have this baby. I know I messed up, you know, but men say, he was like, but I really want you to come back. And something just clicked and was like, don't go back there. Don't go back there. So I told him, I was like, no. I said, I'm gonna stay here at my mama house pregnant with your baby and my baby. I was like, and I'm just gonna figure it out. At this time, I had lost my job. I ain't even had no job. So I'm just at my mama house again, pregnant with a baby on the couch. Dude got my bedroom set, my TV, all the stuff that's supposed to be in the kitchen and everything. So I end up getting a job. You know, I'm applying for jobs and everything. So in the midst of that, I end up reaching out to his mom, and I was like, look, I really need to get my stuff out of your, you know, son house so I can put it in my storage or whatever. So he ends up, because he had changed the lock on me. So he ended up saying, hey, you could come, you can get your stuff. My mom gonna be there. Like, I was gonna steal something out of his house. So, you know, I end up going, my dad got a U-Haul. We got all my stuff and we put it in storage. So, which I, you know, I just had a bedroom set of TV and like all my kitchen stuff and my clothes. Everything else was like his. So I end up getting a job. Well, I applied for the job. So when I applied for the job, um, they had called me. I think I had did the interview or whatever, but then they had told me I got the job. So then they ended up calling me back because I had prayed for this job. I was like, God, I really need this job. Like, I really need to come through and make really good money. Everything I could take care of me and my kids. Like, God, I just really need you to open up a door for me. So they ended up calling me and they was like, you know, hey, Ms. Jenkins, you got the job, yada, yada, yada. So I'm like, okay, you start on such and such a day. So I'm like, yes, good, whatever. So back in like 2004, somebody had did identity theft on me and had got a credit card in my name. So they had subpoenaed me a show cause to go to court for this credit card. So I'm like, I ain't going to court for that credit card. Like, I ain't get the credit card in my name. Didn't tell my mom. I ain't tell nobody about it. Next thing you know, they had sent a subpoena to the house. Not a subpoena, but they had sent a letter to the house for KPS out on me. So boy, I'm screaming, I'm crying, like, oh, I can't go there. Oh God. But then he's like, and my daddy like, yeah, you better take that, put that hair up and a ponytail or something. You better take them earrings out your ears and throw some sweatpants on. You can't be going in there look like that. They gonna want you and this and that. I'm like, no, like I didn't know. You know, I'm going off. My daddy scaring me and everything. So I end up going down there and turning myself in, and the officer, he was just like, you don't even look like you're gonna hurt a flea. He was like, I'm not about to handcuff you or nothing. So they took me over there to turn myself in. And I never like sat in jail or anything. That I end up seeing the magistrate leaving out. She was like, you know, when somebody sends a letter to your house and you get served, like you gotta come to court. But me not showing up for court, it ended up putting a misdemeanor on my record. So the job, they was like, well, you got a misdemeanor on your record. And I was like, I do? They were like, yeah. And I'm like, for what? So they was like, you know, we're not gonna be able to offer you the position. And I was like, what? So like, I'm just devastated at this time. Like, Lord Jesus, like, oh my God, like, I just felt like you know, I'm pregnant. I got 2 kids. Like, what am I gonna do? So, you know, I'm praying, still going to church, still looking for other jobs, but I'm really sad and I'm really upset. And I'm like, Lord God, something gotta give. Like, I didn't even know that. So maybe like a week or so later, the lady called me back and she was like, hey, Miss Jenkins, she was like, you know, we had called you for the job. And I was like, yeah. And so she was like, well, Miss Jenkins, she was like, can you just explain to me like what happened? Like, why is this misdemeanor on your record? And I was like, I don't even know. I saw all I know is somebody got a credit card in my name. It was identity theft. They locked the girl up. The people, credit card people taking me to court. I was like, and I didn't go to court because I didn't do it. I was like, and I didn't know that. And I was like, you know, told her what happened. And she was like, oh, she was like, that's it. And I was like, yes, that's it. Like, I'm not no criminal. She was like, oh, Miss Jenkins, you got the job. She was like, come on in. Come on in, fill out your paperwork and everything. So I'm like, okay, man, you out and walked away from him. I ain't messing around with him no more. So I'm like, okay. So I end up going to the orientation and everything. I go to the orientation, they tell me how much money I'm making, everything, and I'm calculating like if I save X amount of dollars, like I should be out of my parents' house by, such and such a time, because I can't be living in my mama's house with 2 kids. So my first day of training, I go in for my first day of training, and my first day of training, I end up getting a call. So I didn't recognize the number, but I won't go answer the phone. So I end up, calling the number back. And so the lady was like, hey, Miss Jenkins, this is whatever, whatever. And I was like, what? And so she was like, yeah, we need you to come down to the office because we got a voucher for you. And I'm like, a voucher? And she like, yeah. So I go down there to the office and she's like, you gotta, basically I had to go through like whatever this training or whatever it is to get a voucher, like for public assistance. I mean, for the Section 8. So I'm like, how I get this? And the lady was like, what you sign up for? And I'm like, I signed up for Newport News. I did not sign up for Hampton. So I'm like, how did I even get on this list? Like, I know I had the Newport News for sure, because I had got letters and everything like that, but I don't never remember signing up for Hampton. To this day, I'm just like, I don't even ever remember signing up for that. So anyway, they was like, well, you got a voucher, whatever. So I'm like, oh my God. So I got a job and they gave me a voucher. Now I gotta go find me a place to live. So I end up finding me an apartment. I go, they're like, well, Miss Jenkins, you don't got no rental history. I don't really got no money either. I just started a job. So they like, well, we're gonna have to charge you double for your security deposit. And I'm like, double for my security deposit. I'm like, dang, like, sheesh, I got this and I got that, but dang, I can't even move it to the place. Like, I don't have no money. Like, I don't want to ask nobody to borrow no money. Like, I don't know how I'm gonna do this. So at that time, I ended up calling my social worker and I was just like, I'm trying to move. I was like, yeah, I need help with my security deposit. I was like, do y'all help with security deposits? And she was like, yeah. She was like, we do help. I think she was like, well, let me get more information. I'm gonna call you back. So I'm like, okay. So I'm like, Lord, like Jesus, you got me this far. I was like, Lord, just please open the doors for me because, I don't have this type of money. So the lady was like, well, it's $1,200. You need $1,200 in order to move. So I'm like, I don't even know how I'm going to do this. So I ended up getting paid and I had $600 on the dot for this, but I needed another $600. So the lady says, well, she was like, she called me back and she was like, Miss Jenkins, she was like, how much is your security deposit? And I was like, $600. And she was like, okay, well, what is the place that you're moving in? She asked for the information. I gave her the information. She called the people and the rental office ended up calling me and they was like, hey, Miss Jenkins, your movement date is such a date. It was like, you want to be able to move in? They paid the whole deposit, the whole $1,200. I ain't even have to pay. They paid the whole deposit for me. So I was like, oh my God, like I'm like, I'm really doing what God, want me to do. Like I'm just, and obedient and everything. So I end up moving into my place. And because my father did not believe, like I said, at that time, my dad wasn't really in the church and stuff, but he really didn't really talk too much about God, but he did not believe in me shacking with this man. He was like, I want you shacking with this man. My dad wasn't like, he didn't approve of me moving in with him or anything. So my aunt ends up saying, oh, I heard you got your apartment or whatever. And she was like, yeah, she was like, I'm gonna be a blessing to you. She was like, and I'm gonna buy you everything new, whatever color you want your kitchen to be, I'm gonna buy everything for you. She took me on base that day. She bought everything for my kitchen. So I'm like, Dad, I'm gonna have to go to the furniture store and look for furniture. Next thing you know, my dad called and he was like, when I moved out, because my dad ends up telling my mom, my dad started staying the night, at our house, like night after night after night. And I was like, well, is Daddy coming back? And my mom was like, he didn't say he coming back. So, I ended up moving out and my dad ends up calling me and he was like, hey, he was like, I have a storage unit. He was like, with furniture. And he was like, I'm gonna furnish your whole apartment. And I was like, what? I was like, where you get furniture from? He was like, well, me and your mom, separated. He was like, I ended up getting me some furniture. He was like, but I never stayed there. He was like, so it's still in plastic and everything. He was like, when you move, I'm gonna bring everything to your house. He was like, you don't gotta pay for no U-Haul, you don't gotta pay for nothing. He was like, I'm gonna do everything. So I was like, oh my God. I was like, okay. So end up moving. My dad ended up giving me the U-Haul. When I say my mom, my dad, and my aunt furnished my whole entire house. I only had to get me a bedroom set. They furnished the whole house from the living room, the dining room, the kitchen, the washer and dryer, just everything, the bathroom. They did everything for me. And I was just like, oh my God, like God, everything is working out. I got a good job. I got this, I got my apartment, like, everything is working out for me. And I had this little old Dodge Intrepid, but child, it was chuck-a-lucking. And it ended up running hot on me, going out on me. So I ended up had to get a rental car, and the rental car started getting too expensive. And I was like, dang, I gotta, get a car. So I had got this letter in the mail, and it was saying that I had got approved for a car. So I ended up going down to the dealership at that time and applying to see if I can get me a car. But I hadn't been working, long enough. So I was in that dealership for a minute. So like I'm just praying, like, God, you really know, like I need this, I need a car, gotta get back and forth to work. I'm pregnant, about to have another baby, whatever the case may be. So I end up getting a brand new car. A brand new car, no miles, nothing on it. It was like brand new. And I was just like, oh my God, like when I was just like, God, it's really like, things were just working, out for me. As soon as I had got that car, got myself good and settled with me and them kids, and I won't worry about him no more, I get a knock at my door. And this the baby daddy. And he was trying to come back, talking to me like, hey, everything gonna work out and stuff. And I just was like, you can be here for the baby. I was like, well, we can't do nothing. I was like, we can't do anything. I was like, at this point, I was like, we just gonna have to work it out, for the kids. And we did that, for a little while. And then it, didn't mess around or have sex or anything the whole time I was pregnant. And, he was like, I'm gonna do right by you. The baby came and he just started saying, I'm gonna do right by you. I'm gonna do right by you. You know how that story goes, and you fall back in it again. I fell back in it again and got pregnant again. At this point, I'm like, oh my goodness, like I got pregnant again. So like now I'm really scared to go back to church. So I'm like, they really gonna be talking about me. This chick got 3 kids, 2 kids, one on the way. She probably had 3 kids. So I'm like, everybody gonna be talking about me. Everybody gonna be saying that's all I used to worry about. What they gonna say about me? What they gonna think about me? What they gonna say about me? What they gonna think about me? That's just everything. And I just kept praying, and it was like God gave me some courage from out of nowhere. And I was like, you know what? I don't even care. I'm going to church. I'm going to worship God. Like, what happened. I can't go back on it. And I was like, God, I told you I won't go get rid of no more kids. I'm not going to get rid of no more kids. And, everything, just started working out. So I go to have a baby, and they had to induce my labor. Well, they really didn't induce my labor with her. I had contractions by the time I got to the hospital. I was 7 centimeters. So I get in the bed, to have a baby and everything. And I get ready to go to push, and I'm bleeding, of course. So I seen this look on my mama's face, and she was looking, and she was just like, I could tell like she started getting scared. So like I'm started getting scared, and I'm like, what's going on? And he ain't know. He like, what's going on? And I started hemorrhaging. So my mom was like, oh my God, my mom walked out of the room. She's crying. My cousin was in there. She had to go get her, like, hold on, y'all gotta hold it together. So I'm getting scared. I'm like, oh my God, what's going on with me? I'm thinking something will happen. I'm like, oh my God, it's gonna die. Like, what's going on? If they can't stop the blood, like just all of this stuff. And all you see was the doctors just moving around, everybody. They just sticking me with needles in my thigh, one on left thigh, one on the right thigh. They just sticking me. I'm like, oh my God, like what's going on? Like I started crying, like, is everything gonna be okay? I'm gonna be okay. So, my mom, she couldn't come back in the room or anything because like she had got upset. So they eventually, got, the blood and everything under control. And, I was back to, okay. Came home, had the baby, got out of the hospital, came home, everything was fine, but I didn't really work while I was pregnant with my daughter. So I ended up getting a job, and I had to drive back and forth across the water. So being as though I didn't really have money and stuff like that, my car ended up getting repossessed as soon as I got a job. So I ended up calling my parents and I'm like, hey, I'm like, Mom, they took my car. I done had a baby, I done got a job, these people done took my car. So my mom like, what, why you didn't tell us why you let it get this far? And I'm like, well, I don't want to be a burden on nobody or anything like that. So my dad ends up saying, well, we gonna have to help you out, so you can get the car, found out how much it is, this, that, and the third. So I end up calling them to get, how much it was for me to get my car back. So I couldn't get my car back like that same day. And I ended up going to the kid dad and I just, started telling him what was going on. And he was just like, oh, dang, like he really couldn't even help me. So my parents, my dad ended up getting my car back for me. And as soon as I got the car back, my lights go out. So the light bill is high. So at this point, I got a newborn baby, plus, my kids, they were probably like a year apart, a year and some change apart. And then I still got my oldest. We ain't got no light. It's hot outside. I had the windows up and the lighting candles and stuff. Called my parents and I'm like, hey, we in the house, we ain't got no light. I called on my cell phone and I was like, well, my cell phone, not really charged, like it's gonna, go off. I don't really know how I'm gonna get in contact with y'all. To let y'all know, I end up calling the kid's father, let him know, hey, I ain't got no light. So he's like, hey, but what you gonna do? What am I gonna do? And I got your kids. I'm like, dang, he ain't even gonna help me. Like I was just distraught. I was just crying, just all to pieces at this point. I ain't even really going to church no more like I used to. I ain't praying like I used to. I couldn't even say the last time I read the Bible. I just was like, enough was enough for me. Like I just kind of felt like, okay, this is just it. They just took my car, got my car back now, ain't got no light. We was gonna be next to water, like the baby here, I can't, it was just I couldn't do nothing. I had to leave the kids in the in the house. It was pouring down rain outside. I had to drive over. It was like a 7-Eleven next to my house. I had to drive over to the 7-Eleven. I had to get on the payphone. The payphone was still working at that time. I had to get on the payphone. I had to call the daddy. He was like, well, I'm going to come over there and I'm gonna help y'all. Y'all could just come stay with me. Never offered to pay the bill. Just said, well, y'all can come and stay at my house or whatever. So I end up the next morning, didn't go to work, ended up reaching out, trying to get help or whatever to get my life stuff back on because I didn't want to, ask my parents for any more, help or anything like that. So I ended up having to go and get assistance for that to get my life and stuff back on. So at this point, it was just like it was like, hey, this is it. Like, I can't do this no more. Like, I cannot do this no more with you. Like, I can't, I'm in this house with the kids. I ain't getting no help or nothing like that. It was just a lot. So, I ended up having like a mental breakdown. I went into depression. I was like in a dark space. I didn't want to talk to nobody. I didn't want to answer the phone for nobody. I didn't want nobody to come over. It wasn't nothing a preacher could say, a pastor could do, a friend could do. It was nothing that nobody could do. Like, I was just in a dark place. I did not want to be bothered with nobody. Like, I was just so depressed. When I say I was depressed, I was just so depressed. So, pretty much, got myself together, ended up moving out, getting me another place, just started doing good for myself. I left the guy alone. I was like, I made a commitment to God, ended up moving out, saying, hey, this is just not going to be it for me, end up like moving on with my life. And I never, never looked back or anything at that point in time. And I just started going to church and just really started dedicating myself to God, had my kids in church. And I just really started like, trying to do good and do better for myself and start witnessing to God. I mean, witnessing to, my friends and stuff about how good God is and the things that God has done for me and how he has brought me out of situations, just being, a testimony to them. My church had asked me to be over the Young Woman of Excellence. And I started, talking to young girls and started ministering to them and different things about how they can get out of situations, being a single mom, and just really started just like pouring in and everything that I had going on, you know, with myself, just being a little bit more open and being more transparent, because I realized that I could not get through if somebody hadn't been through what I've been through, or I couldn't get through if you couldn't be transparent to me and tell me how to get through, because I was going through the motions of the church of praying and praying and praying, but I was still getting somewhere, but I just felt like I wasn't like where I needed to be. Like I really wanted to receive the Holy Spirit. I really wanted to know what it was to have an intimate relationship with God, what it was to get to know Him. And once I started getting on track and knowing like what it was to like have an intimate relationship with Him myself, and starting to like pray more and getting to know God and get intimate with Him and start reading the Bibles, and I started, you know, doing research for myself, I started to feel more better about myself. I started feeling more better. And not that I never knew God, but God had always been there for me. He always had my back, and I'm gonna go ahead and finish this up for y'all. God has always been there for me. Like he never left me. Like he would come in and he would show me dreams of like how he was gonna bless me and things he was doing for me. And he still does that for me to this day. I'm not perfect. I still, you know, feel like I got a long ways to go in some things, and I can, you know, backtrack on some things, but I will say that God has brought me from a mighty long way. I have always had a struggle with relationships and me, and that was just always been my big thing. But when God really came in, is when I had met a guy, looked good, all of that. You could tell like I go for looks, but come to find out, I got three girls and a son. This later found it was like it was too good to be true. He was just everything, like a knight shining armor. Come to find out, this man was a rapist. He was in the house with my daughters, and it came to the point where it had got out, and my family had found out about it. My friends had found out about it. They was like, leave him alone, stop talking to him and everything. Ended up started looking up the records. This man had raped a 17-year-old and a 19-year-old. Lied about his name, identity, everything. But when I look back on it and how things had transpired, God really saved me, because it could have been my daughters that had got raped, molested, or anything in that house. And it was like he had a hold on me, and it was hard for me to like let him go. But I really knew, like, you know, God, it just little old me, through everything that I've been through up until now, like God has always had His hand on me, even when I thought He didn't have His hand on me. God has always protected me and been there for me. He has been my shield and armor. Like He has been everything. So if anybody say like God ain't real, and you, like they say, you can't tell me that God ain't real, like you can't make me doubt Him. I know too much about Him. He has brought me from a mighty long way, where I have seen women that have been through things that I've been through, and they couldn't take it, have a nervous breakdown in the hospital, ready to kill their stuff. I mean, I had so many thoughts of like, I want to commit suicide, this ain't it. Like maybe if I just leave here, then I don't gotta worry about it. And God brought me back. Like, who are you? Who you think you are to think you want to take yourself out of here, that you want to kill yourself? Do you know who I am? Like, if I brought you to it, I could bring you through it. And a lot of stuff I had brought on myself. But when I stepped back and really thought about it, I was like, Lord, you have brought me a mighty long way. You have brought me out of so much, to the point where I told God, I'm dedicating myself to you. I'm giving myself back to you. I have been celibate for a year and some change. When I say no sex, no toys, no masturbations, I'm not talking to no other man or anything. I'm like, God, I really need you to do this. This is really a God thing. It's me and you. It's not nobody else. Like, I really need you to just come in. Even though my friends have seen the blessings on my life, I'm like, God, they're going to know that it ain't nobody but you. And I'm going to stand still, and I'm going to be faithful. And I'm going to know now that God, you know, this is a me and you thing. Like, you're going to bring me out of this situation. So, you know, for anybody that may have been in situations like I have been in, or, you know, anything else, I just tell you to hold on, keep the faith. God has not forgotten you. You know, we don't, you know, God never leaves us. We leave Him, you know, and God is always there for us. He never turns His back on us. He is there. He's not this mean God that's like, oh, I ain't gonna do this for you because you lied and you said. He is a forgiving God. I found out that he is a forgiving God. He is a loving God. He is a just God. You know, he is your father. He is your friend. He is your source. He is your resource. He is your everything. He is indescribable, and he can do any and everything for you. And he will get you out of situations you didn't even know you could get yourself out of. Like, his hand has really been over my life, my children's life, since I had them and I was obedient. God has really blessed us beyond measures, and he is still blessing me to today. So for anybody, I just tell you just to hold on. I could write a book. I still got more that I can say, but I know it's late, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna cut it off. But thank you guys for listening.
Thank you for sharing. Thank you for sharing. Glad you're here today to be able to, tell your testimony and everything. Y'all know I always got to write stuff down, but as you were talking, I was just saying it's amazing how God comes and calms every storm. And I think that was coming from when you was talking about your dad, you and your dad get back, going back and forth into it, and him saying, I don't want to come here because if she's here, if she's staying here or whatever. But then you said how, it was like your dad came up and was like, how he heard God and even told you or told him that you were pregnant, but he didn't know, you didn't tell him. But it's just, like I said, it's just amazing how God comes in and just, calms every situation. And then just listening to your testimony, I pray your testimony is just as everyone on this line. Like, we just, basically see each other, and like we always say, you really don't know what someone's been through, you know, in their life. And it's good to know we are not by ourselves in what we're going through, and God loves us so much to lift us up out of the things that we were in. um I'm pretty sure a lot of sisters can testify on this too. We see ourselves in you. And when you listen to the other testimonies, if you haven't or if you have, I'm pretty sure you hear and see yourself through us. A lot of us have the same testimony, maybe different situations, but the same thing. And it's just an honor to see the love, compassion, and patience that God has with us and our families. It's so amazing. So I would just say, just stay encouraged. We all, just stay encouraged.
Thank you.
Go ahead, y'all. Who else got a comment or a question or anything? Go ahead, y'all.
Well, this I would like to say that I can see in my child that God really, really has blessed her and has brought her a mighty long way. And when I'm going through things in my life, or I have things on my mind, or I'm feeling a certain way, and she calls me, she can tell something is not right. And I tell you, when she prays for me, it is really powerful. And whatever I'm feeling, whatever I'm thinking about, God moves it away. And I just thank God that I have her in my life and that she is the woman that she is.
Hallelujah. Thank you, Miss Pat. Thank you, Anayzia, for really your transparency, your story. I mean, your story from the minute you started talking, just your excitement and your zeal just had me smiling the whole time. I mean, it was silly, it was funny, it was like I almost cried a few times, and I could just feel like your passion and your pain and just what that could have even have felt like. It was just so much, but to just see you just keep the faith and then to just see how even through that journey, I mean, man, we only got that piece of it, you know what I mean? But that was years that you just condensed into this short time story. But we got to see even your growth and your strength and your relationship and everything. I mean, man, it was just so much. But we just thank and praise God for what He has done in your life. And we thank and praise God for your boldness to get on here and to tell your testimony and to be so honest and to be so transparent. And it's just beautiful. It's just so beautiful. And we just thank you, thank you, thank you. And I just pray that the ladies will just, continue to encourage you on tonight and just continue to tell you. I know I don't know if you're able to read the comments, but, several of them have left comments in the comments or whatever to you, just, thanking you as well. So that's all I got to say. And I always ask at the end, I say, well, who is Jesus to you? But you answered that. You told that thing. So I just thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Who got something? Augusta, Sister Serena, what y'all got for Anayzia? What y'all got?
I thank God for your testimony, sis. God is He's sure enough faithful, and the fact that we all, and I saw myself in that, always making promises. God, I won't. God, I promise. God, I'm not. And still go right back to your mess. And He's still stand right there with His arms open wide, with His heart forgiving and loving. And who wouldn't want to serve a God like that? Who doesn't love a God who loves you unconditionally? I just thank and praise God for you and your like Sister said, your transparency. I thank and praise God for you being obedient to Him and listening to Him and really just having an intimate relationship with Him. Because in that intimacy comes that confidence that we need to have in Christ. And that intimacy comes, that blessed hope and that assurance that God gives us. So I thank you. I thank you for your testimony, and pray that you'll continue to share your testimony, because there's a lot of young women out here who are lost and they don't know God, and if you can bless them with your testimony, I'm sure it'll encourage somebody to seek Christ, so thank you for sharing.